I was on KTRH's Morning News, our sister station this morning, with a lady named Nisa Mohammed, and I think it was they thought it was going to be a crossfire kind of deal, and she is with a group called Wedded Bliss, and she's promoting a thing called Black Marriage Day, and I was brought in to speak on the other side, and she presented her case, and I actually said I agreed, and I'll explain to you in a moment why. But Nisa Mohammed is our guest. Her group is called Wedded Bliss. Thanks for being with us, Nisa, on short notice.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I kind of thought it was a setup, too. I wasn't quite sure, but...
You thought, well, if you knew me, you would have known that I typically would have tried to tear your head off. So they were a little surprised that I said that I was very much in favor of what you were doing. I think I had them in shock. But
it sounded like it.
Tell us what you're doing with Black Marriage Day and why that's even necessary.
You know, unfortunately, the black community has the lowest marriage rates in America. And, you know, the marriage rates all around the country are going down or have gone down. But when white America has a cold, black America has pneumonia.
You know, I wanted to point out, you used that phrase this morning, and I have really bad allergies. I didn't know if that's why you used the analogy.
And, you know, I don't know you, so I could not have used it for that reason. But the thing is...
Normally, I have a mellifluous voice, but this voice that you're hearing, this is not me. So,
not the real
yes.
you.
No,
so
no.
I look forward to hearing the real
yes.
you. So if you have a cold, you can take something over the counter. Go to the drugstore, get something to deal with a cold. You get something over the counter. But if you've got pneumonia, you need a specific prescription to deal with pneumonia. You can't just go and get anything. And so Black Marriage Day is a specific prescription for a community that's at the bottom of the list. So now, you know, I've gotten criticism also. Why Black Marriage Day? You know, marriage shouldn't be around racial lines. So I said, fine. Let's just call it the people at the bottom Marriage Day. It would still be Black Marriage Day. Or let's just call it the people with the lowest marriage rate day. It would still be Black Marriage Day because no one has the distinction that we have.
I want to get to why that is. I have my own theories, but I'll look forward to hearing yours. I think it's a good effort. Finally, someone talking about solutions and pointing to where the problems are that are resulting in, I think, a lot of community problems for us across the country. This is an issue for a lot of our communities. It's a drain on social services, and more importantly, it's really affecting the productivity, the potential for young children that come out of these homes. Nisa Mohammed is with Wedded Bliss, Inc., and she's talking about Black Marriage Day. Nisa, let's just have, you and I, let's have a conversation where no white people are involved, okay?
Okay.
That's what I call that conversation that blacks have when no white people are around and we can speak honestly, raw, about the issues, okay? Because the issues don't go away by not talking about them in mixed company.
You're absolutely right.
So, in your opinion, I have my own thoughts. You know, The Cosby Show in the 80s was incredibly popular, but that was not the typical black family. It has been my experience that blacks who move out of inner city communities, that move out of what the media would loosely call the black community and move into suburbs, mirror the people around them. They have the same educational experiences. They may have gone to an HBCU, but they're still they may have been in a black fraternity or a black sorority. You know, she's an AKA, he's an alpha, but the career paths, the saving patterns, the religious patterns, the marriage success, all of that mirrors the rest of America. It is almost as if there is a cluster in the inner city, and it's as if we have lost or we've been losing for a period of years the battle. And I would argue some of that's hip-hop music. I would argue some of that is public housing projects. I would argue some of that is welfare and negative incentives. But in your mind, why do we need this Black Marriage Day? Where did it go wrong?
You know, part of the issue is that everybody wants the American dream, the nice home, the wonderful community, the picket fence, the good school for their children. This is not just a white dream
I noticed
or
you
a
didn't
white
say the white
aspiration.
picket fence, Nisa.
Right, the picket
What you got
fence.
against white picket fence? Is there
No,
anything better than a
I,
white picket fence?
you know what? I have nothing against
Okay.
oak picket fences or
Some
white picket
some of your best
fences.
friends are white picket fences.
I'm sure they are. So the thing is, we all want the same American dream, but how do we get there? Part of what we're seeing today is that the dividing line between the haves and the have-nots is not so much income, education, or race, it's marriage. And so that the people who make the decision to marry tend to be more educated, they tend to have higher incomes, and they tend to be mostly white. And so those people, those black people who do tend to make it across that line, tend to be married, they want the same things. They want a community where there's a good school for their children. They want a safe community. They want higher property values. So they're going to go and cluster where these things take place, and that's typically where married people live. If you want community services, live where married people live because they get faster responses for quicker services. If you don't care about the schools for your children, you don't care if you live in a high crime area or have low property values, live where single people live, where marriages fail, or marriages typically fail to happen, and you'll see that. Poor schools, high crime, low property values. Marriage matters. And so you're right. Once upon a time, there were cultural cues that guided people toward marriage. The music. It no longer guides us toward marriage. You know, songs by the Temptations, the Delphonics, Baby, I Love You. You know, I was speaking at Morehouse College.
Oh, Delphonics, that's Didn't I Blow Your Mind This Time?
Exactly.
That's a great
So now
song.
I was speaking
That's from Jackie Brown.
at Morehouse College, which is an all-male black HBCU, and I asked the guys to name me a song where a black man is saying to a woman, I love you. Tell me one song where a man is saying, they couldn't name one song, not one song.
Can you?
That they listen to on a not in popular music, no.
You could go back to some Lionel Richie or Stevie.
Exact, but you have to go back. But in today's music that our children are nursed on, that they are reared on, they don't have that, where men are saying to women, I love you. You know, what they came up with was the closest thing was a song where somebody was saying, I love your body. Not the same thing.
Who was that?
The Dream, a song by The Dream where he says, I love your body.
What about Back That Thing Up? That's not really a love song.
That doesn't come close.
No.
So the cultural cues that once upon a time guided us toward marriage are absent. Children used to grow up saying, Michael and Janice sitting in a tree, you finish.
Kissing. First came love, then came marriage, then came Janice with the baby carriage.
So young people grew up knowing there was an order to things. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes the baby carriage.
That's a good point, Nisa. You've thought about this.
I have thought about this. Today, young people, I ask young people that I speak to modernize that song. I said, what is it today? They say first comes sex, then comes the baby, then comes child support. There's no love and there's no marriage. And
is
so
anybody really paying child support?
You know, no.
Okay.
And that's the horror of it also, because there's this myth that child support is the thing to do. So a teacher was asking her classroom, you know, how many people want to get married, and hardly any of the girls raised their hands. And she was like, why? Why don't you all want to get married? And so one girl said, I don't want to get married because then I can't get child support.
What?
So child support is like a lure for people now. You get something for nothing. Child support.
How come all the people on your website are pretty? You don't think ugly people need to get married?
No, I'm sure they do. But, you know, when you're looking for stock photos, you know, those are just the ones they have.
Oh, all right. So tell me about Black Marriage Day. What are the what is associated with this? What is the goal? How do we know this is a success?
We know this is a success because, number one, I get requests from all over the country, and people send me newspaper clippings from small cities like Savannah, Georgia, to big cities like Chicago, New York, Detroit, L.A. You know, people want to celebrate marriage. They want people to know our theme this year is Married and Proud of It. People are inducting couples into a Black Marriage Day Hall of Fame. An organization called Mocha Moms, which is a group of Black moms who stay at home, they are encouraging all of their chapters nationwide to participate, and they've also offered grants to chapters to hold events to celebrate marriage in their community. People do some wonderful and incredible things to celebrate marriage. They have workshops. Family members celebrate the oldest marriages in their family. Because I tell people that you don't have to spend a whole lot of money. Just celebrate the marriages in your family.
Mm-hmm.
Just let the people know in your family. Thank God you're married, and we're very
But
happy you're married.
isn't that the case? I look at friends of mine that particularly married couples, or I look at friends of mine who are black, and the 60 and up crowd, they've all been married 40 or more years.
Yeah.
All of them, or widowed, but they were for some period of times. I mean, almost every single one of them. And then you look at the under 40 crowd, and many of them never married. And I know there's been a lot written, particularly there's been a lot written. There's a whole chick lit category for black women who are having trouble finding a suitable match. They get to be 40 years old, and they want to marry a black man, which is their own prerogative. They get to be 40 years old, and they're struggling and frustrated. I know there's been a lot written about that.
You know, we've bought into the hype that marriage doesn't matter. And especially in the black community, it has really become, prolific that marriage doesn't matter. But part of the issue is that we look at things very differently. Whereas I was speaking at a workshop, and this white woman was telling me that on a lot of white campuses, the girls' mantra is get the ring before spring. That this is what young white girls were saying while they're in college: get the ring before spring.
Or getting an MRS, you always hear. What are you getting? I'm getting a BS. I'm getting a BA. I'm getting an MRS.
Exactly.
Is this you on the picture of Black Marriage Day?
Which one?
The one with the hair down on the shoulders with her arm around the guy? Okay.
No, that's not me. So, in the Latino community, they're talking about marriage and family in high school. My daughter graduated from Spelman College. I asked her, what are they talking about on Spelman's campus about marriage and family? She said, oh, we're not talking about that. We're talking about careers, jobs, travel. So it's a whole different mindset in the black community. And so people gravitate toward that which affirms them. And so for black women, what affirms a lot of us is our jobs, our careers. And so we learn a lot of skills that help us to be successful in the job market, where we learn how to manage, coordinate, administrate, and then try to use that same skill set, which has helped us to be very successful at home, and it doesn't work. Our husbands don't want to be managed by us. They don't want to be coordinated or administrated by us. And so there's a very different skill set that is required to be a successful wife. And so a lot of times we can't transition from one career to the other. And so what is affirming us is not then what helps us to be successful at home. And so that's part of what we do at Wedded Bliss, help people to understand the differences in the roles and responsibilities as being a successful career woman in terms of being a successful wife. Two different skill sets, two very important roles, and we try to help people understand it.
The website is blackmarriageday.com, blackmarriageday.com. Nisa, let me ask you this. Do you get the sense, this is just one person's anecdotal perspective. I get the sense that there is not a sea change amongst black women across the generations with regard to marriage, child rearing, the family unit, that the change has occurred in young black males, that there's this idea that and obviously this is, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but of song and movie, and we'll talk about your movies in a moment, but of song and movies and culture as it's reaffirmed in so many different ways, there's this stud mentality. I can't be tied down to one woman. I can have children, but I can't be with one woman because that makes me less a man. I'm not keeping it real. I guess my point is I seem to see a divide between men and women, or am I wrong?
No, you're totally accurate. See, part of it is that we're reared very differently, and we're looking at this thing very differently. So that men need to see other men being successful in marriage. They don't see it in the movies. They don't see it in the music. They don't see it in their neighborhoods. A couple of years ago, a Washington Post reporter interviewed a 14-year-old boy who said marriage is for white folks because he didn't know anybody black that was married, had never been to a wedding. So in his mind, marriage was something white people did. It was not something that black people did. So if you grow up...
Where do you think he got that, Nisa?
His experience. If you grow up in an inner city community and you don't see anybody black that's married, you've never been to a wedding, you don't know anybody black that's married, and all you know about in terms of relationships is what you see on TV, the media, and in the music, where are the movies that show successful black marriages? They're rarely there. So we had from Tyler Perry, Why Did I Get Married? That's a hell of a title. Why did I get married? And then the next year, Why Did I Get Married? Two.
Yeah.
So where are the movies, that show, the powerful experience of being black and married? We don't have those movies out there.
You're debuting another movie called Men Ain't Boys this year in 100 cities. Tell me about that.
We are debuting another movie produced by Ronnie and Lamar Tyler, and our goal is to produce cultural appropriate information to get the message across that marriage matters.
Is the idea to make marriage cool again?
Yes, totally, to make marriage cool, to make marriage sexy, because I tell some of my married couples that they are the worst advertisement for marriage. That, singles make being single look sexy, fun, exciting. Married people make marriage look old, tired, boring, not the thing to do. We got to flip that script around and make marriage exciting, sexy, glamorous, the thing to do, and our young people will then follow us.
To what extent is hip-hop and the explosion in popularity of hip-hop responsible? Because it is you look at the top artists and it is very much objectifying women, and it is very much a hit and run celebration.
And, I think it's a part of the problem. As I said, the cultural cues that used to be there that guided us toward marriage are absent. Those cultural cues are gone. And so what we used to be able to look to toward music, movies, TV that could guide people toward marriage, family settings, family experiences, those things are gone. And so now people have to be taught marriage, because the experiences they used to be able to get, or a grandparent or aunt and uncle they could see within marriage, those things are not happening in a lot of our children's lives. And so they don't see how to do it. And so we have to begin to teach them.
Nisa Mohammed, the group is Wedded Bliss. The website is blackmarriageday.com. I hope you are extremely successful. I think you're taking up a good cause. These are positive solutions to real problems in our community that we all pay for, we all suffer from, and particularly the children. So thank you, Nisa. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
All right. WeddedBlissInc.com, or you can go to blackmarriageday.com. I do not support separationist policies. I do not support segregationist policies. I do not support black spelling bees or black beauty contests. I do not support race being used as an excuse for failure. I do not support the admission of students based on race, the promotion of employees based on race, a different standard for employees based on race, the inability to fire based on race. But I do support what this woman and her group is doing, Wedded Bliss, in going in and tackling real problems in our community. And I think you have to recognize there is a real problem. It is uncool amongst young blacks to talk about marriage. And you can see the results. Unwed mothers, young men going to prison, children raised in fatherless homes. Children raised in fatherless homes is, in my opinion, the single greatest threat to this country.